We've waited and waited and waited some more. And the wheel has finally turned far enough to give us Season 2 of The Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime. In this special episode of TarValon Talks, the crew will be discussing episodes 1, 2, and 3 of the TV show that we are going to split into 3 podcast episodes. So listen here for our digest of episode 1 and check back for our review of episodes 2 and 3. Spoiler warnings. The episode will contain spoilers for both the TV show and the book series, so you have been warned past now. So here is Dianna, and myself, Thad, diving into episode 1 of season 2 of The Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime.
We're back.
We are back. There's so much to talk about.
So much.
There's a lot.
They really started us off right with the Dark Friend Social as the cold open for episode 1, which I believe is also the prologue for book 2, if I'm remembering right. It's been a minute since I've done my reread, but it is a prologue of some sort.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's nice that they did that, and they gave us a lot to work with on that prologue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of foreshadowing happening in this cold open.
So much foreshadowing.
Yeah. It is a bit different than it is in the books, as with everything, but I think that one of the things that at least these first 3 episodes have done really nicely is not give us a one-to-one of scenes that happen in the book, but nods to things that happen in the books. And this is just a great way to set that pace and that tone going forward. So you guys talked about the Dark Friend Social before, so we won't go into this too much because we've already gotten into it before, but it is interesting to me, especially that Padan Fain took his hood off and leered at the Tuathon girl, given what happens to the Tuathon later. I thought that was really scary. Do we want to talk more about the Aes Sedai and the Shienaran and the Seanchan that we saw at the table and who we think they are?
I think we already know who the Seanchan is. Well, I mean, if you're a book reader, you know who the Seanchan is. By the end of the episode, you should also know who... Well, maybe not the end of episode 1, but by episode 2, you definitely know who it is.
Yeah, even if you don't know her name, it is definitely Lady Sarath.
Mm-hmm.
You can see her fingernails.
Mm-hmm. Because that's a high blood specialty right there.
Yes, and it's probably Leandrin.
We're going to assume at this point that it is most likely Leandrin.
That is who it was in the book, right? Was it her or Kalina?
Off the top of my head, I do not remember. But there were more than, it was a very much larger gathering since it was in the World of Dreams in the books. So there was more characters, and when they kind of gave an oversweeping description of a lot of the characters, if you were paying attention, you knew who was who.
And in the books, we had it was the White Cloak Boars, Joshua and Sheridan.
Yes.
And then we definitely have Ingtar. You can see his emblem with the hawk on his tabard.
I wonder if that was Ingtar or if that was the Shienaran who was with Padan Fain, or if that's if the Shienaran who was with Padan Fain is a fake, and we're supposed to be oh, no, we knew who that Shienaran was, but it is actually Ingtar.
I think it's Ingtar, because I think this was people that were higher up, and that guy was just
That would make sense to me.
Just a regular old dark friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the, gopher that was letting Padan Fain in. Ingtar would have been at the meeting.
Yep.
So there was one little detail that I noticed outside that I don't know if I'm reading too much into on foreshadowing, but when the little Tuathon girl is outside looking at those little the monuments outside, and a couple of them had already fallen to the ground, and a lot of them were still standing up.
I missed that.
I think that might give us a foreshadowing on how many of the seals are already broken, because we already know one of them is broken, and if you're a book reader, you know that at least 2 of them are broken by the end of book 2. So.
And you will by the end of this episode, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ooh, now I want to... Man, I literally just rewatched today, and I already want to go back and rewatch now to count those.
I did not notice that part. I did notice that it looked like there was a seal, because she walks up and rubs her hand on it. I'm pretty sure that was a seal.
It's those, and there's a bunch of them out front of the building that they're in, and a few of them are on the ground, and I'm wondering if they're foreshadowing. This is how many of the seals are the ones that are standing are still up, and how many that are on the ground are broken.
That's interesting.
It's pretty slick.
To go back and watch that again.
How do you feel about this not happening in the World of Dreams compared to... Does it make more sense for it to not happen in the World of Dreams given the adaptations so far?
Yeah, I don't know how they would portray that on the screen.
Because at this point, we don't know a lot about Tel'aran'rhiod, and I think this is our first big, introduction to it in the books.
The most we have are the dreams that Ishamael has entered,
Mm-hmm.
which is connected to Tel'aran'rhiod, but not really Tel'aran'rhiod.
Yeah, I'm okay with this not being in the World of Dreams since we haven't gotten a Tel'aran'rhiod explainer yet, and I feel like it's really going to be necessary. I don't think I would bet we're not going to get Tel'aran'rhiod until next season. Until they're in the Aiel Waste, we're with the Wise Ones, and we're gonna get it. We're gonna learn about it as Egwene is learning about it. Is gonna be my guess. I think it's fine to have it grounded in reality.
Yeah.
That or Wolf Dream stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I have thoughts about how they're doing Perrin's Wolf stuff this season, but we will get there. My only other note for this is that I have watched this cold open probably 10 times at this point, and every time I'm always scared that the Trolloc is going to bite the girl. When she goes to touch its face, I'm I know it's not going to happen. But I literally, the first time I watched, I had to put my hand over my eyes. I was so convinced that Trolloc was going to eat her.
It's more afraid of Ishamael than it is of the girl.
As if Ishamael wouldn't feed a child to a Trolloc.
Right?
I mean, fair enough. I mean, given that the mom is probably in that meeting, it would probably look bad on him to feed the child to the Trolloc.
Would it, though? Would it? I mean...
Depending on where the mom stands.
Yeah.
She's talking to a Forsaken. And given the way we ended season 1 with the girl being wiped out by the shark,
children are not safe in this show.
We're just going to open the next season with a child being eaten by a Trolloc. I mean...
This show is pulling no punches this season. So...
It's really not.
No, and we will get there.
We'll get there.
Oh my god. We'll get to the punches later.
Yeah.
Because I have thoughts on that.
So after the cold open, we just get the serpent eating its tail. For the first 3 episodes, we will not get an opening. I don't know if we're going to get an opening this season, which makes me kind of sad.
I don't know how true this is, but I heard that they just decided to take what would be the time spent on the opening on just actual showtime.
That makes no sense since the actual length of the episodes is really not that important because none of them are under an hour.
Yeah, they were all 70 minutes each. I was not expecting that.
They were all 70 minutes. So adding a 90-second opening was not going to change that.
Yeah, what people forget about streaming is that the streaming platform has all of the control over how long an episode is. They don't have to fight for commercial time. Mm-hmm. They don't have to worry about what's going to come next. They have total freedom over how long an episode can be. And so that lets them be very variable with what the episodes look like in terms of time and in terms of what they're fitting in.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if it's... I mean, I have my own personal theory that they're going to change the opening at some point because Moiraine is just slowly not going to be the main character anymore. And we're seeing that more and more this season, that Moiraine is a character, but she's not the main character. And so I feel at some point they're going to maybe shift the opening if we get it back. It'll be interesting to see what they do for episode 4.
Yeah. The other thought I had was that a lot of the delay in getting the seasons is the delay overall for the entire industry in getting CGI. And if they wanted a different opening, they either had to wait for it or just use the old opening. And I don't know why they didn't use that, but really no way of knowing unless you're one of the people making the decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would love to know. Amazon, if you want to tell us. We're all ears.
Please drop us a line at producertvt@gmail.com.
I'd ask Rafe, but I'm pretty sure he's on strike right now.
Yeah, true. So then after the serpent's tail, then we get Moiraine getting her bath water from a well that is very far away from Varen's house and walking up that hill. There's so many trips that she's had to have taken up that hill. Poor Moiraine.
That is a large bathtub and those are very small buckets.
Yeah. And then her heating up the water on the stove and in the bath, trying to see if she can heat up the water with her hand, with the one power, and just not being able to, which is so heartbreaking. The way that the camera lingers on her hands, it sits on her hands for a good 10 seconds and then lingers on her in the bath. It's so heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. It is. I wrote down that Maureen really likes baths, doesn't she? Well, this is our third bath with her. Third bath. Like, that is a lot. I mean, we got a lot of baths in the books, but I don't remember Maureen ever being in any of them.
If I can draw a correlation at this point, Aes Sedai's love baths.
I mean...
She is also Elaine's aunt, so maybe it's genetic.
Oh, she is.
Technically, yeah. I mean, she is royalty, technically.
Yeah, I mean, and we know Elaine likes her.
Elaine loves her baths. Maybe this is where she gets it from. She's like, Auntie Moiraine loved her baths. I also love my baths.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie. I'm depressed. Nice hot bath makes me feel better.
Mm-hmm. In contrast to Lan, who is shirtless and training, thank you, Rafe. Thank you, Rafe, for this gift. It starts literally, like, it pans up from, like, his pants all the way up. I was like, Rafe, you know exactly what you were doing, and I'm here for it. I am Adollaeus every time Lan is on screen and shirtless.
Excuse me, can you move over, Varen? I know everybody's excited that Varen has entered the chat, but can you please move aside so that we can look at Varen a little more?
Adollaeus is such a mood. She's so just, like, not here for Moiraine's bullshit. Very into Lan. Like, truly, if Moiraine's not careful, Adollaeus is going to bond Lan.
I mean...
They do kind of play with that idea, though, don't they, later on in the episode?
Not with Adollaeus, but with Alana.
Not with Adollaeus.
Yeah. So, Doll, Veri, and I were talking before we were recording, and Adollaeus, they're doing something very different with Adollaeus in the books than they were... in the show than they were doing with the books.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up Adollaeus and Vandene, who in the books are twin sisters, and I had forgotten that they are actually who Moiraine goes to in The Great Hunt. So that's consistent. But Vandene doesn't exist.
That's one chapter. It's one chapter in book 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Vandene doesn't exist in the show. So they have taken Adollaeus, who is a brown in the books, and Vandene, who is a green in the books, and squashed them together to make Adollaeus now a green. I'm assuming, I think.
She seems to be. She's definitely very, very green-like.
She's very green.
We're going to come to find that there are a lot of characters in these first 3 episodes that just flat out don't exist in the books.
Yep. Or they're very different. And then Varen is her actual sister?
That's what it seems.
That's what they've alluded to, kind of.
They didn't allude to it. She said it flat out.
Did she say it? I must have missed that specifically.
But, so when you use the closed caption, though, when she says sister, it's capitalized. The S is capitalized as if she's referring to her as another Aes Sedai sister.
Oh,
okay, yeah, because that's what they do. That's what I was assuming.
Yeah.
It was just the way they lived together.
Yeah.
And the fact that they are also very similar looking.
Yeah.
Like, they look like they could be actual sisters.
Yeah.
And the way that they rib each other, like how Adollaeus is like constantly, is like later she teases Tomas for like being Varen's warder and like never having sex again. Also a very green thing to joke about.
Yeah.
Like, to me, they felt like they were siblings. They're either siblings or they're really close best friends, but not in a, like, quote-unquote best friends, aka lesbians way.
Not the pillow friends way.
Yeah, not in a pillow friends way. And then we get Bael'Domon. Shad, you get to talk about your favorite.
He is the best.
I'm so excited for you.
He is I was so afraid he was going to get cut. Like, no joke. I mean, he's always been the character in the series that shows up in the right place at the right time. So they could have gone any number of ways with that specifically. But they decided to include him. And I am glad they did. And he is exactly as I imagined it.
He is perfect. His accent is perfect.
He comes in with his, I do be concerned.
As soon as he said, I do be, I was like, it's Bael'Domon.
As soon as they said that it was an Ilioner, I'm like, it's Bael.
It's Bael.
And when he opened his mouth,
it's like, that was it right there.
100%.
Yep. He is perfect.
So I'm happy. I'm legitimately happy that he did get included.
I would expect to see him again, even this season. Like you said that, like he's always in the right place at the right time.
They are, he's going to show up later because they set him up to be in Falm. Because in the books, he rescues the boys from Shadar Logoth, goes upriver to Whitebridge, drops them off, goes on his way, right?
And he gets captured by Ganon.
Yeah, he gets captured by Ganon. He gets his ship taken, all that kind of stuff. And because at that point, when he dropped the boys off at Whitebridge, he's like, I don't want any of this. And he goes out to sea and heads west. So after he has that long conversation with Moraine, he tries to sell her that Quaindiar chunk. And she's just like, I just want the poem. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, what is wrong with you, woman?
Which I thought was really cute. Like the whole introducing the game at this point. Like, they didn't quite explain what the game of houses was, but they definitely hinted at it with the way she talked about it. Like, the poem isn't worth 5, crown, and that was what she really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And it obviously wasn't about money, because then she turned around and gave him the money anyway.
She gave him like one. She was like, "I'll give you a gold mark for the poem," and he's like, "You're insane. You're absolutely insane." And then he offhandedly mentions that he was being followed, and she asks why, and he goes, "These black hooded people." And she goes, "Sail out to the sea and go east or west. It doesn't matter." And I went, right there. That's where he's going to get the falm, because he's going to go out to sea and he's going to sail west.
I was literally shouting at my TV screen, "Don't go west, Bale! Don't go west!
Don't go west!
Don't go west, go east!"
Would you rather go east and end up in Shara?
That's fair. Like, there's no, I mean, I would take, well.
Would you take Shara over Falm?
Not knowing what happens with Shara, no.
He just needs to go south.
To the land of madmen? There's nowhere good to go east, west, or south.
He could go north. He could give it up.
The Sea of Storms, and then they'll go all the way down.
He could have gone to Maine and seen Bear Lane.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, that's a good way to go. Just go east to Mayenne, and you're set.
He's going west, though.
He is going west, unfortunately for him.
Yeah,
which feels bad.
But we got nice setup for him returning later on to rescue Nynaeve and Egwene from Falm.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Then we cut to the White Tower and Egwene in the Amerlin's room, looking at the Amerlin's get up. Which anytime Egwene is interacting with anything Amerlin related, I get super excited.
Yes.
She's like doing chores around the tower. Leanne drops a cup in her bag. Just real, like, radically disrespectful from Leanne.
She just treats her like furniture.
She does. Also, I'm so excited for everything Leanne related, because we haven't gotten to one of my favorite tertiary characters yet, but Leanne is one of my faves.
She's a pretty good one.
She's also, that dress is working for her. She looks incredible. I love this actress. Leanne is everything. She's everything. Then Egwene goes and picks up dishes from Ilana and sees Ilana having a threesome with Yvonne and Maxim, which is incredible.
The look on Egwene's face when she sees it happening.
Yeah, it's like, oh, oops.
Incredible stuff from Ilana. Amazing. Elaine wanders around the tower and then ends up in the White Tower kitchen, which is one of the special scenes that we got before the season came out of Ilana, who got dressed real quick, comes down and teaches Egwene and Nynaeve and a couple of other novices how to channel. And this is the first time that we get the look at what the new channeling is going to look like with the new colors of the weaves, which looks amazing. I'm so excited that this is the first time we're seeing channeling in season 2. And they're really showing off the different colors in a cool way by combining 2 different elements together and really hammering home that there are these 5 different elements. I have been studying the clips for a lot. So here's what I think the colors are. Earth is green, water is blue, fire is red, air is yellow, and spirit is white.
I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I was really confused what yellow was for a long time, but I've landed on it must be air.
See, I feel like I was saying this way back in season 1 of they needed to be colors for the elements, and they didn't do that. And then here we are for the last podcast. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, there's Ishamael probably channeling the true source. And it goes, nope, that's just Earth.
Yeah.
I was screaming at the recording, going like, no, Thad, no, it's Earth. It's like yelling, hence all of my commentary in the chat afterwards.
It is definitely the increased CGI budget, which we also saw when Egwene was walking through the tower, because the views of TarValon from the tower, gorgeous.
The tower looks stunning this season. Everything looks stunning this season. Like every single set that we see, all of the VFX, like all of the costuming, everything looks incredible this season. I really feel like Amazon is leaning into Wheel of Time, which must mean that the viewership numbers were pretty good compared to a certain other show that came out.
It's number 1 again already.
Yes.
So,
is it number 1? Oh, on Amazon? Because I thought One Piece and Ahsoka were overtaking it overall. But
on Amazon, One Piece and Ahsoka have overtaken it, but it was on number 1 before they came out.
Amazing. Also, I'm pretty sure One Piece dropped all at once, so I'm expecting Wheel of Time to overtake it at some point.
Yeah.
Then we get this really cool kind of gathering of Aes Sedai to talk about training novices, and in particular to talk about Egwene and Nynaeve, which I thought was fascinating. There's Sheriam, Leandrin, Alana, a gray bald gray who I do not know. Is she a gray or a white?
Who was it?
I didn't look at the X-ray for her. Sometimes when I pull up the X-rays on all the characters on the screen, it doesn't give actually everybody.
Interesting. But there was definitely a lot of interesting interactions between Sheriam and Leandrin in particular. I also love the little detail that Leandrin's not allowed to train novices because she's killed once. That checks out. I think there's also like a yellow sitting around. There's like a bunch of different Aes Sedai. I thought it was just a really cool scene to see how the Aes Sedai talk. And also a cool introduction to Sheriam. Oh, okay. Varian is saying it's Joya.
Yes, it is Joya.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Interesting. I cannot remember a single Gray of Consequence from any of the books. So sorry. Sorry, Very. And they talk about Mazrim Taim or like other channelers in particular, and they reference Mazrim Taim and then they call him by name in a later episode. So do we think that we're not going to get Taemon Dread in the show, or do we think we are?
Well, we're not. I mean, Taemon Dread didn't actually happen.
I feel like if one person is going to be like, you know what, Taemon Dread is canon now, it's going to be Rafe.
I mean, it's a if you know the story, it would make a really good red herring.
Yeah. Also, Rafe was loving to combine characters. This is one of the characters that canonically could have been combined, but was split into two. We just are fixing this other turning of the wheel.
Look, we're just going to make this happen.
I'm going to speak this into existence.
Rafe didn't get the pleasure of it when he was reading the book, so he's getting it now.
I guess I'm really forecasting that I want Taemon Dread to be a thing because we know how I feel about the Demon Dread thing. Then we cut to Perrin and Loyal with the Shinarans. I just want to comment that Perrin looks incredible in the Shinaran armor. It is really working for him. Marcus looks great. Really happy for him to have a glow up in this season.
Yes.
And we get the rest of the Shinarans, in particular Uno. Uno really shines this episode and next episode. But my one quibble is I don't feel like they have him using enough of the Wheel of Time curse words.
No.
Mm-mm. Absolutely not. We need a bloody every other sentence, and we're not getting that.
And the one time he was going to be like goat licking blah, 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 Ingtar is like, Uno. And I'm like, we were actually going to get Wheel of Time swear words.
Don't make him stop.
Mother's milk in a cup.
Yeah, he uses like taking the piss and stuff like that, like our world swear words, which I really don't like. Uno is like one of those opportunities for them to really drive home that the Wheel of Time is, well, our world, but in the future / the past, like a different time.
Mm-hmm.
He needed a really angry blood and bloody ashes, and we didn't get it.
We have not heard a single blood and bloody ashes.
You said feckin'. Like, was fecking even a thing in the books?
No.
No, it was not. Mm-mm.
No.
Yeah, fecking is Scottish.
Yeah.
You know, light was basically the equivalent of that.
Light or bloody.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't get that. We could have gotten a blood and bloody.
Yeah, we'll get there, but it's actually why I'm not as sad about Uno dying as I think the rest of you guys are. Because I'm like, well, you're missing...
You're getting ahead of yourself there.
Yeah, okay. We said we were going to do spoilers for the show.
Yes, but I have thoughts on
But
that.
we're only in episode
and I
1
can't
right
get into
now.
those
We're
thoughts.
not getting there, but we're just going to get there.
And we also meet
Ingtar?
Elias.
Oh, Elias, yes.
And that, I think you were right.
Yeah, they kind of blended. Well, they didn't. I won't say they blended. They just straight up replaced Huron with Elias.
Yeah, and then call him a sniffer.
Which, you know, as much I loved Huron in the books. He makes it all the way to the last book before he gets killed.
So does Uno.
Mm-hmm. But I always liked Huron's character, even though he was even by minor character standards, he was a minor character. I don't know. I always liked him. But everybody can't make the cut, right?
Yeah. Also, I genuinely forgot that he made it to the end of the final book.
Mm-hmm.
Or because I remember him from book 2 and book 2 only.
Well, we don't see him again until he comes back on the fields of
Marilor.
Marilor.
Oh, I can't keep straight everyone who shows back up in that giant battle.
I mean, it's like that with Julian as well.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember Julian, though.
I mean, Julian is around a lot more. He's kind of, that's a whole different thing, though.
Yeah, we'll get there. Or we won't. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
And we also get Ingtar, and he's talking about honoring traitors and defends the traitors, and later on when they're burying them, he's like yeah, later on he's like, every man deserves a burial. I'm like, you would think that, wouldn't you, Ingtar?
Yeah, you would.
Mm-hmm.
Since they were your men.
Yep.
In more ways than one.
Yep.
Now, one thing I am glad that we got this season was seeing a certain thing nailed to the door.
Yes, that was in episode 2.
Was that episode 2?
Yeah, it's an episode 2.
Yeah.
See, now I'm getting ahead.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
It all kind of blends together, right?
It does.
Yeah, at this point, we're at the camp where the Tinkers are dead.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where we start to see some weirdness with Perrin's wolf abilities. He starts seeing things.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is their visualization of like how his sniffing ability works, but I hate it.
I don't, yeah.
How else do you adapt something like that, though? Because in a print setting, how Robert Jordan did it was, I mean, it just works. I smell the blood. I can smell what happened. How do you adapt that? How do you adapt that without dialogue into a visual medium?
Totally. And like, I hear you. It's more, I don't hate it in a vacuum. I hate it because it looks like Min's ability visually.
It also is like, this scene in particular is not, but the next time it happens is pulled straight from the books, but it does not happen to Perrin. And we can talk about that when we get there.
Mm-hmm. And it's also a bubble of evil.
But it's less Min's ability, because Min's ability is seeing the future, and this is Perrin seeing what happened. So it more or less kind of relates to his ability in the books of being able to sniff out, like, there was violence here, but he can actually see what the violence was because of the wolf vision.
Yeah, it's more that visually, like the way that they're visualizing them to me looks very similar with like how they're kind of, the figures are kind of misty. Like it's not identical. And so like no show person who I've talked to is like, oh, can Perrin see the past the way that like Min can see the future? No one's asked me that. It's more that I just like, I'm not a huge fan of the way they're visualizing it.
I get that.
In general. Maybe once we get the explanation with Elias, because Elias is presumably going to train Perrin, I would imagine starting in episode 4, like maybe then I'll like it more. But just in these first 3 episodes, I was like, I don't think this is not my fave.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about him interacting with it thus far?
Elias?
No, Perrin, when he starts to interact with the stuff that he sees, because he did it a few times across the episodes that we've seen so far.
I don't like it. It just doesn't work for me.
I think it's too visual, but I don't know how else they would have portrayed it unless we start to see more the wolves actually showing up.
Yeah.
I think at this point where it's just Elias just trying to suss out what Perrin actually is.
Yeah.
Now, Elias knows.
Certainly by episode 2, he knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear you, Thad. Like, what else would they do? I don't know. It's just, it doesn't fully work for me.
I don't have an answer for you either. It's like, what do you do? How do you adapt this otherwise? I'm not that creative. I probably would have done something similar, you know? You saw what happened.
Yeah.
I maybe would have shown Perrin sniffing. That would have been maybe the only thing. Like him, like have him visually like be sniffing the air as he's like walking up or something.
It'd be just like, you smell that? And then like actually saying like...
Yeah, I guess stuff like that could have worked. He walked in.
It would have been dialogue.
Yeah, he would walk in and he would just be like, point something out that nobody else would have even like, you know, like there's something rotting in here, and somebody goes, what are you talking about?
Yeah, or like he could like sniff it and be like, Pat and Fane was here, and then he sees the thing, or like I don't know.
Or he describes what he's sensing, and we see it as he's describing it. So it's not like he's visually seeing it. We're just
we got that in season 1 in the ways when Perrin points down the ways and it goes, there's a sign down there, and they go, how did you see that, Perrin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think that was very obvious, though.
Well, it was obvious to us.
Because we knew what to look for.
I continue to not be thrilled with how they're handling Perrin's wolf powers. I'm really hoping they step it up in episode 4.
It's really hard to adapt what he is as a character. And we've discussed this at length.
Yeah.
It's
so, and we will discuss it more, but mostly in episode 3, where I have thoughts about stuff they did do well with Perrin's wolf powers. But to move us on, we then get more Aes Sedai more training from Nynaeve with the warders, which is such a great scene.
Yeah.
I love this. I love her training with Yvonne and Maxim, and them being like, why are you here? Like, figure it out.
I also love when he's like, it's Alana Sedai.
Yeah. I was like, Nynaeve, literally, they are her warders and they are holding swords. Maybe don't insult Alana to their face.
Yeah.
Maybe you're taking your life in your own hands right now.
Yeah, maybe don't be quite so honest with your feelings.
Yep. Speaking of Adolla Ceryia, Egwene then goes to talk to her for help with weaves, and Adolla, who is eating a pomegranate, which is the biblical fruit of knowledge, then just gives her incredible sex ed about how to have more than one partner.
Yes. You just have to feel it.
You just have to open yourself up.
And Egwene's like, I think we're talking about different things.
It's such a good scene. And Alanna knows exactly what she's doing. She knows why Elaine is there.
Oh, yeah,
she knows Elaine is not there for sex advice, but she don't care.
No. She's like, I know you saw it and you want to ignore it, but I'm not going to let you.
Mm-hmm. Also, I love Egwene being like, do you need to put clothes on? And then, like, the way she comes in and, like, sits down and, like, really awkwardly, like, sits on the pillows and, like, cannot get comfortable. Oh, God. Every interaction between Egwene and Alanna is just pure joy. I love it so much. And Alanna does eventually give her very helpful channeling advice about how to channel multiple types of weaves at the same time.
Which wasn't all that, like, the advice she gave her about how to handle two sexual partners at once. I mean, it is kind of the same.
Mm-hmm. Kind of the same. I mean, we just got to open up that flower bud, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just got to surrender, remember.
We kind of, I'm sorry, but that reminded me of we kind of glossed over it in the earlier scene with Nynaeve and Alanna, and Nynaeve just gulps down the dirty last river water. She's like, you didn't say it had to be clean when I drink.
Oh, so good. So good. There's so much good, like, power play between Nynaeve and Alanna in that earlier scene. And, like, a Nynaeve being like, it's not working with the flower bud. Also, I loved Alanna being like, it's pink. I'm like, Alanna, does Nynaeve look like a pink flower kind of girl to you? Come on.
No.
Come on.
She's not a pink flower.
Good try, Alanna, but try again. Come on.
And speaking of Nynaeve, she is now being talked to by Leandrin.
Yep.
And I am not sure if Leandrin is trying to turn her into an Aes Sedai or a Sith Lord.
I have lots of thoughts about this.
Go for it.
Because we know in the books that she is just an inherently evil person from the get-go. She legitimately has no redeeming qualities from the start. And in the show, she comes across as that almost immediately, and I feel like they're trying to humanize her more as a character before they pull the rug out from under us on it.
Yeah, we're not quite to that point yet, but in this point, they're talking, and Leandrin, like, she makes a sword with the power, which isn't that against the oath? Like, you can't make a weapon with the power except...
Well, I thought it was that they can't they can't forge weapons.
They can't forge weapons. They cannot use the power as a weapon against
someone else.
Someone else, unless an extreme...
Well, I mean, it's a technicality. Is she using it against someone else?
She attacks Nynaeve.
She doesn't attack her with the sword. She then attacks her with...
She shows that she can make it, but she has no intent of using it as such.
I think it's a very, very fine line if we're saying that that's not against the oaths.
I mean, it's like, can you use the oaths? Can you create like a switch of air to punish a novice? Is that using the one power as a weapon? Because you are hurting someone.
But it's not a weapon. It is hurting somebody, but it's not really a weapon.
A whip is a weapon.
Right, let's jump ahead a little bit to a conversation between Egwene and a certain, starts with an S word, we won't get there yet, who tries to grab a jug, but is unable to touch the jug because they perceive it as a weapon.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. We're talking about way, way ahead in the books.
Mm-hmm. In the books. Yeah, this is not a show thing. This is a book thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think perception matters. And clearly corporal punishment with the one power can happen because a certain red beats the shit out of Egwene later with the one power, like later on in the books. And quite frankly, that's using the one power as a weapon, I would say. But like, I feel like it's a fine line, and I feel like some people skirt it, and you could argue that Leandra is skirting it here. But yeah, definitely, what, 3 oaths?
Yeah.
From Leandra.
Yeah. What 3 oaths? And don't be calm. Embrace your anger. Embrace the dark side. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's definitely trying to win her over to the Sith.
Yeah. The other person who she could be trying to win over is Perrin, who is continuing to struggle with his desire for revenge, and also keeps talking about Layla. And I really want the show to stop talking about Layla. There's a point when they're doing the bell time thing where he puts his ring on the... and I was like, yes! Yes! And then he picked it back up and I was like, damn it!
Oh, yes, let it go. And then he picked it back
I
up.
shook my head when he did that. I was like, let it go. It's done. It's past.
The other thing is, like, I'm pretty sure that we're gonna get Fael this season. And so, like, how do you go from episode 1 Perrin still clearly mourning his wife and talking about Layla and, like, being in love with Layla to his relationship with Fael and where it ends up at the end of book 3? Like, it doesn't... There's so much, like, character work that is going to have to happen. I don't understand how they're going to make Fael make sense. Like, I don't know if they're going to slow roll that relationship just to give Perrin additional plot at a certain point, and which is fine. Like, fine, slow roll Fael and Perrin all you want. But I'm just like, I really need him to get over Layla.
Yeah.
Like, the show needs to stop trying to make Layla happen.
Yeah. Stop trying to make Layla happen.
It's not going to happen.
Speaking of the Belltown Lanterns, we see Nynaeve and Egwene reading a letter from Perrin where they're talking about it being Beltane again, which means it's been a whole year, so we have no clue what has happened since they left the Eye of the World.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to, like, talk this out as a group. Because I saw some people complaining about this, actually.
I know a lot of people complaining about it, because
yeah.
What the fuck? Like, we just jumped in time without any indication, and it's a whole year later?
So, like, we know that they've all been in the tower. Matt has been in the tower for 5 months, which seems incorrect. It seems like he should have been there before the girls got there, but whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
They had to have picked him up at some point. We don't know when they picked him up.
Yeah, so they must have... Maybe he was in TarValon just, like, chilling for a couple of months.
Yeah.
So, okay, to go back to, like, start at the beginning, the first few episodes of season 1 take place over what probably is like a few days, maybe a week and a half at most. Then we get the 1 month time skip in episode 4 or 5. Then they spend maybe a week at TarValon.
Yeah.
At most. It's not super clear, but Moiraine is wearing the same outfit for the majority of the time, and, like, so is Leandrin. Although they don't seem to change clothes very much because Leanne in these 3 episodes is wearing the same dress throughout.
It's hard to say.
And then then it takes them, like, 2 days probably to get to Shinar. Maybe not even that. Or not Shinar, Faldara.
Oh, wait, yeah, because they're in the waves.
Yeah. And then they're in Faldara for, like, a couple of days at best. And, like, presumably they could have spent some time at Faldara before going to the tower.
Yeah, well, they've made it to the tower, and somehow Perrin is all the way on Toman Head, because he's already in Toman Head. That's the entire other side of the continent, and it's almost a year later. Like, there's not a lot of filler in there how they've got there or what happened in between.
Yeah, it's somehow, like, the timeline doesn't quite make sense. I see what they were trying to do, where it's like maybe every, like, first episode of a season is going to be Beltane just to, like, set us in time. Although I hope they're not doing that, but they are definitely trying to draw a lot of parallels between this episode and the first episode of season 1. And this just seemed like another one, but it's also like, did you guys really think about this timeline? Because I feel like this timeline doesn't make sense.
Well, did I miss where you said that basically the 5 months had passed, correct? You said that.
5 months have passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could feasibly make it from TarValon or Faldara to Toman Head in a 5 month period.
Yeah, in the 5 months, but what has happened in those 5 months?
Well, in the books, a lot of it is them just following a trail.
There's 7 months missing is the problem, or 6. Because, like, the first season probably takes place over a month and a half to 2 months. So then you have 5 months. And I think the Wheel of Time year is roughly the equivalent of our year.
Yeah.
It's 10-day weeks, and
It's 10 days a week. There's 14 months.
Okay, so it's even longer.
If there's one thing in the Wheel of Time I have never fully wrapped my head around, it is how, like, the calendaring system works in that world.
Like, their months are not even like ours. I have to go back.
They go on a system to where I think all the months are the same amount of days, and then there's X amount of, 10-day weeks or something per month 3 or 4 or something like that. So 40 days per month, but how many months are in a year kind of thing.
Yeah.
This isn't any kind of Gregorian calendar.
No, definitely not.
It's a little closer to a lunar calendar, and then there's like a week across the Festival of Lights where they line up with the lunar year a little more. I'd have to go back. It's been a long time since I looked at the calendar. There's like more than 12 months.
Okay. So we're presumably missing anywhere between like 6 and 8 months of time. That's just not explained by this timeline. I mean, and maybe it takes them 6 to 8 months to get from Faldara to TarValon because they don't do that trip. They presumably they're not going back through the ways in the show. So that could be it. There's just a lot of time missing. So that's like my biggest question. But the one thing about it being Beltane and with the letter from Perrin is that Liandrin has intercepted the letter as well. And I'm guessing made a copy before it got passed to Nynaeve. And she's using it to torture Matt. And I don't care how much the show tries to humanize Liandrin. If they continue to have her torturing Matt, I'm going to hate her forever. Because you cannot torture my baby boy.
That's what they want. That's what they want.
You cannot torture Matt.
I mean, is she torturing him, or is she just locking him up and ignoring him? And like,
she's like literally reading the letter and gaslighting him and telling him that her friends, that's torture.
Yeah, he's gaslighting.
That is a type of psychological torture.
Yeah, psychological manipulation. Yeah.
I also, like Matt, desperately want to know what Liandrin wants with Matt, and mostly I want to know what does the show think Liandrin wants with Matt, because I feel like they've written themselves into a little bit of a corner here, and they're attempting to write themselves back out of it again with the ending of episode 3 and presumably what's going to happen in episode 4, but I'm so confused.
Yeah, so if we parallel this with the books, in the books, Matt had been returned to the tower, the dagger had been separated from him, and they're basically just keeping him on watch to make sure he doesn't die from the effect of having the dagger forcefully separated from him. And they didn't do that here because they did it in a 5-second scene with Moraine separating him from the dagger. So, and I think that kind of fell into the whole thing with what was going on during COVID and filming and the original actor leaving is they're trying to find their way out of that hole. So they're trying to find a way to get Matt from where he is to where everybody else currently is. So they're kind of having to do this kind of little leap of logic to do so.
Yeah, it just kind of, this is maybe like a writing thing, but when I feel like shows don't fully know what they're doing with a character, when that character is then like, what do you want with me, over and over and over again, which Matt has asked Liandrin, what do you want with me at least once an episode, it does make me be like, show, do you know the answer to this question? Because like, I don't feel like you do. We'll see. I mean, I'm not giving the show a lot of benefit of the doubt here. We'll see. I'm just very confused.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm also really glad that they kept hammering home that Rand is dead. Or that they all think Rand is dead, because I genuinely kept forgetting. So it was very helpful for them to just like constantly be like, Rand is dead, I'm so sad Rand is dead, I miss him so much. And I was like there was a point when like Perrin compared Rand to Layla, and I was like, why? And my husband had to be like, because he thinks Rand is dead. And I was like, right. Okay.
It's definitely harder. That little kind of thought process is a little harder to follow when you've read the books and you know that that's not the truth. So you kind of forget about the little details like that sometimes.
Yeah. And then we have the darkest fight scene in the entire show with the Vidral.
No, I watched it multiple times. I watched it with all the lights out. I still can't see what's happening in that scene.
It's really unfortunate because I've watched it a couple of times, and every time I watched it, it was in a different setup, and every single setup made it slightly more visible. And so today when I watched it, there was a lot of really cool stuff that's happening in this scene that I'm like, damn, I wish you had lit this a little better because it would be cool for people to see it. They have at one point the fades vanishing in and out of the shadows. Like,
oh, I didn't have a problem with seeing any of that.
The first time I watched it, which is definitely partially my setups.
There's a sound effect that goes with it too.
Yeah.
So I knew exactly what was going on when he steps behind the rock and you hear the sound. He goes, "Oh, he's gonna jump shadows."
I could tell like that, but I couldn't see it happening. Like, and I'm not watching it on a high def TV, which may be a problem. Like, I'm in a standard definition, and nothing I did made any of it appeared very well.
Yeah.
I might have to see if I can find a way to watch it.
If you watch it on your computer, it might be better, because when I watched it on my computer today,
4K.
it was super visible.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that.
Yeah, it's like way, way more visible. My problem is that my TV faces a window, and I was watching it, for me, Pacific time. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so there's tons of light pouring through my window.
Diana.
I don't have a choice.
Come
My
on.
apartment only
Come
has
on.
certain layouts that work.
You're making me like, oh, come on.
That if you want to come to San Francisco and fix my apartment layout, please.
You are killing me here.
Please. I really need to get blackout curtains for my living room. Is really what I need, because this is just it's not a Wheel of Time problem. This is a show problem for me in general. But there's also super cool fight choreography in this scene. Like at one point, Lan does like a total flip and he kicks one Myrddraal in the face and slashes another. Like it looks great when you can see it.
Like I just saw shadows.
This also answers my question of who was the dude with the flaming sword in
That
our
would be
lead up.
Tomas.
That would be Tomas with a fire-infused weapon from Varen.
So cool. Very, very cool.
And there was a few minutes where Moiraine saw Varen's weaves coming, and she just had that look on her face like, oh my god, it's working. And then you hear Varen shout, get down, and she realizes it's not her pulling threads.
Well, they made it look like that because she was trying to hold up her hands like she was going to try to start sandling, and like the weaves started kind of like coalescing in her hands, which was kind of like that fake out.
That was like the one thing, because the weaves were lighting up her face. I could actually see what was going on there. And her face, the face as she's doing it, it's just like,
so
am I doing this?
Yeah.
That should answer it right there, right?
I don't know, because there is still no clear answer. Nothing of this makes sense if she's still or not. Did we record us talking about that, or were we talking about it before we started recording?
It was before. Well, we can talk about it, because most of my we could talk about it now, actually, because I do have all of my questions. Although I feel like they talk about it. The part that really gives me questions is in episode 2.
Well, this part gives me question, because despite the fact that Lan put up a lot, like he still killed several Fades, right? Or at least one.
At least one or two, yeah.
He definitely beheads one.
He beheads one.
Because Tomas kills the other.
Okay.
I think Lan, because there's 4, I think. Because there's the one that not Nynaeve. There's the one that Moiraine stabs right at the beginning of the fight. I'm not 100% sure that one is like dead, but maybe it's dead. I don't know. Then there's the one that Lan beheads. Then there's 2 that start fighting Lan, and he, I think, kills one, and then Tomas kills I think he kills one and Tomas kills the other.
Something like that, yeah.
I think that's right.
The one, I guess, detail they decided to step away from on killing Fades from the books compared to the TV show is that when you kill a Fade, when you behead it, whatever, keeps moving. And when you kill a Fade in the show, it just stops moving.
I think that's fine. It would be very confusing otherwise.
It's fine, but I would have loved to see that.
You just see it moving a little.
Because that was the thing, is Lan was always just like, if you kill a Fade, if you beheaded a Fade, get away from it, because it'll keep swinging its sword around like it's still alive, because it won't accept that it's dead.
Yeah.
They're out of phase with reality. Yeah, at this point, he didn't see it coming. He didn't feel it. He didn't sense it. They were surprised by these Myrddraal. If he was still bonded, he would have felt it, right?
Well, they're still going with that whole masked bond.
Or she's stilled.
But he says in episode 2 that he doesn't feel them.
I don't think even masking it was just hides her emotions and her, like, where she is. It doesn't take away his added strength and his ability to sense the shadow spawn.
I think this is a red herring.
At this point, I think she's stilled. I think they're going to use that for Nynaeve instead of Swan.
I'm so torn. I feel like the show is not being consistent. So it's really hard for me to land on one way or another. Like, I feel like they keep referencing that the bond either isn't there, or like I get with like the masking thing. If she masks it, then she's shielded, then she can't unmask it. That I have no problem with. It's that I feel like the show can't decide whether or not the bond is there. And also, Moiraine shouldn't have her oaths anymore if she's stilled. And like Lan,
it doesn't mean she doesn't. Like, I don't know that they realized that. Like, even Swan had to test it out to see if she could break the oaths.
Yeah, and like maybe she did take advantage of that, and she did lie to Lan in episode 2 and say we're not equals.
I sure as hell hope that's what happened.
Yeah.
There's a detail from the books about getting stilled that I don't know would carry over to a visual medium the same way, due to just how it works, is that when Swan got stilled, basically age caught up with her because nobody could recognize her. Not even Gareth Bryn, who had seen her recently.
It wasn't that age caught up to her. It was that she looked a lot younger.
She looked like she stopped having that ageless look.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
And I don't think they're going with an ageless look for the Aes Sedai because
I don't think there's any way to do that.
Not reasonably, at least.
Yeah. So the closest thing to me that is an ageless look is plastic surgery. But this is Hollywood. And
everybody.
No tea, no shade to these actors and actresses, but they've probably all gotten some level of plastic surgery to continue and done work to continue to look as good as they do, given their ages.
Are you saying Daniel Henney got ab implants?
If he did, God bless him. Thank you, Daniel Henney.
No, and there's a combination of makeup and what they do with the post production, because they remove pores and stuff from people all the time. Like they make people look flawless on screen when they're not.
Right. But it's not quite I've always imagined the ageless look as a little Uncanny Valley-esque.
Mm-hmm.
But we're subjected to that every day, all the time.
Yeah.
As the modern world. So I don't feel like it would land the same way. So I feel like they're just cutting that from the show, and I am totally fine with that.
I'm fine with that too. The whole ageless thing, it works better in a book setting than it does in a TV medium or a movie medium like this. So I'm fine with it.
Short of making people glow or something.
I mean, Disney's messed with that with Star Wars by bringing certain characters back looking younger and stuff like that, and it's hit or miss. It's
always Uncanny Valley. It always looks weird.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad that they're not doing that for the show. Also, that would have made their VFX budget even more insane, and I would rather they spend it on making the threads look different colors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, those 3 minutes of Mark Hamill looking like he did in the 80s cost $5 million.
But outside of all of that, we've seen Moraine can see the weaves. But if you were stilled, you wouldn't be able to see weaves, correct?
I feel like they're really fudging that because, technically Nynaeve shouldn't be able to see weaves unless she is,
No, not... She's blocked. She still sees them. She just can't.
She does see them?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'm getting my mechanics wrong.
She just can't grab a hold of it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole thing in later books about how they work around stuff like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
yeah, I also feel like that's something... The mechanics of channeling in the show and the books are not the same. As we will get to with Logain in episode 3. Yeah, I feel like they're making a couple of mechanical changes, and
that's fine.
I think it's okay that Moiraine can still see the weaves, but maybe you're right. Maybe that does mean she's just shielded. I go back and forth. Constantly.
Well, I'll give you the caveat of, you know what? I think we're basically where we're at right now. We are at the end of episode 1. The Fates have attacked.
Yeah.
Lan and Moraine have been hurt pretty badly about it, so we can kind of, because this conversation everything is starting to bleed to episode 2 with what we're kind of leaning into, so we can kind of go ahead and finish up our whole episode 1 conversation here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think we've talked about pretty much everything. The other thing was, we end with Rand.
Yes.
Somewhere.
Carrion.
It's in Carrion, but we don't really know that at that time.
They don't say it until the beginning of the next episode.
I think it's in the X-ray, but we don't see until the next episode. He puts a lantern out.
Yeah, it's that whole Beltane tie-in with everybody else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everybody else has put one out for him and Layla, and I guess he's doing the same for himself.
For his hair, his poor hair.
His hair. That's right.
Goodbye, luscious red locks. But thank you so much for joining us on TarValon Talks. If you have any questions or topics you'd like to talk to us about, feel free to send us an email to producer.tbt@gmail.com or join us on TarValon.net. In our general forums, we have a special thread called TarValon Talks pinned at the top of the page. You can also chat with us via TarValon.net's Discord server in the TarValon Talks Discord channel. How many more times can I say TarValon Talks? Just that last time. Stay tuned for our next episode where we discuss episode 2 of season 2 of the TV show Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime. See you next time.